Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about how you can actually trick your brain into liking hard things. Seriously, it all comes down to understanding this one super powerful chemical, dopamine, and really learning how to reset your whole relationship with it. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about a problem that, let's be honest, you probably know all too well. Then we're going to get into the actual brain science, why this happens. And then, the best part, we'll walk through a super practical plan to get your focus and your drive back on track. Okay, let's kick things off with a struggle that is, well, it's pretty much universal these days, right? In this crazy, distraction-filled world we live in, we're going to look at why your to-do list feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest, but firing up a video game feels like a total breeze. It's this weird paradox that messes with our work, our goals, pretty much everything. I mean, just think about it for a second. You can get completely lost for hours scrolling through your phone or playing a game, totally in the zone. But the moment it's time to work on that report or, study for a big test, suddenly even 30 minutes feels like an absolute marathon. We know what we should be doing, but we keep picking the easy instant thing. So what gives? Why does this happen? And here's the thing. The reason for this isn't as simple as easy versus hard. Nope. The real reason? It's all happening inside your head. It's all about brain chemistry and one specific, really powerful neurotransmitter that basically runs our motivation. And that's dopamine. So how in the world does this one little chemical secretly run your entire life? Well, figuring that out is the absolute first step to taking back control. And you're about to see it has way less to do with pleasure and everything to do with pursuit. Okay, so there's this huge misconception out there that dopamine is the pleasure molecule. That's not quite right. It's actually the molecule of motivation. Dopamine is the thing that makes us want things. It makes us anticipate a reward, and that anticipation is what gives us the desire, the drive to actually get up and do stuff. And to really get a grip on just how powerful this motivation is, we gotta look at these, honestly, kind of terrifying experiments that neuroscientists did with rats. This story really, really puts the power of dopamine into perspective. So in these experiments, right, the researchers basically hooked up a lever that let the rats give themselves a little jolt to their brain's reward system. And the craving for that dopamine hit got so intense, so powerful, that it completely overrode everything else. I'm talking food, water, even sleep. They just wanted that hit. But then they looked at the flip side. What happens when you take dopamine away? Well, when the scientists blocked it, the rats completely lost all motivation. I mean, they were so lethargic they wouldn't even eat or drink unless someone put the food right in their mouths. It's just, without dopamine, there is zero will to do anything, not even the basics for survival. Okay, so what does this rat experiment have to do with us? Well, think about our modern world. We are constantly flooded with these high dopamine hits, social media, junk food, video games, you name it. And this creates a huge problem for our brains. It completely throws our internal systems out of whack, and it's what makes that boring but super important work feel totally impossible. You see, your body is always trying to stay in balance. There's a fancy word for it, homeostasis. The easiest way to think about it is like a thermostat in your house, right? If it gets too cold, you shiver to generate heat. Too hot, you sweat to cool down. It's automatic. And guess what? Your brain is doing the exact same thing with its chemistry. And one of the main ways your body keeps this balance is by building up a tolerance. It's a simple idea. Think about drinking. Someone who almost never drinks might feel it after just one beer, but a regular drinker, they need a lot more to get that same effect. Why? Because their body has adapted. It's just become less sensitive to it. And this is the kicker. Your brain does the exact same thing with dopamine. When you're constantly flooding it with these huge spikes from, social media or junk food, it adapts. It literally starts to shut down some of its own receptors to protect itself. And that crazy high level of stimulation, that becomes your new normal, your new baseline. And that right there is the trap. Once your brain's new normal is jacked up so high, those normal, healthy, productive things, they just can't compete anymore. Reading a book, going for a run, doing focused work, it all feels incredibly boring and unmotivating. Why? Because it's not giving your brain that massive fireworks show of a dopamine hit that it's gotten used to. So the big question is, how do we fix this? How do we escape this tolerance trap? Well, the answer is something called a dopamine detox. We're going to talk about how you can basically reset your entire reward system. And the way you do it is by intentionally, starving your brain of all that crazy stimulation for a little while.
You got to give your dopamine receptors a chance to heal and recover.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine you're starving on a deserted island. A plain bowl of rice would probably seem like the most amazing meal you've ever had, right? A dopamine detox works in the exact same way. The whole point is to make yourself so bored that those boring, productive tasks start to look interesting and appealing again. You're basically resetting your taste buds for stimulation.
Okay, so if you want a really fast, kind of radical reset, you can try the full day detox. And the goal for this one day is simple. Not easy, but simple. Have as little fun as possible. Seriously, this forced period of boredom is what lets your brain's reward pathways finally calm down and recover.
So, what does a day like this actually look like?
Well, here's a simple checklist. You're basically cutting out all the easy external pleasure. That means no internet, no phone, no computer, no music, no junk food. Instead, you're just left with your own thoughts. Maybe a pen and some paper, a walk outside. It's all about embracing the quiet, the simplicity.
Now, look, if a full day of total boredom sounds a little intense, that's okay. You can definitely start smaller. Just pick one of your main high dopamine habits. Maybe it's scrolling Instagram or playing video games, and cut that one thing out completely for one full day every week. That alone can be incredibly effective.
A detox is an awesome way to reset, for sure. But what about after that? What about the long term? You can't just be bored forever, right? You need a system that's sustainable. So now let's get into how you can build a reward system that actually makes dopamine work for you instead of against you.
All right, this next part is maybe the most important rule for making this stick long term. And it is, do the hard, boring, low dopamine stuff first, always. If you start your day by grabbing your phone and getting that easy dopamine hit, you've just spent all your motivation for the day. You have to save the reward for after the work is done. This is non-negotiable.
And you can even make a structured system for this to keep yourself honest. For example, you could say that for every hour of focused, deep work you do, you earn 15 minutes of some high dopamine reward. Some guilt-free scrolling or gaming that you can cash in at the end of the day. And of course, you can play with those numbers and find a ratio that works for you.
When you really get down to it, dopamine itself isn't the bad guy here. It's not good or bad. It's actually a fundamental part of what makes us human. It's what drives us to achieve things, to get better. The whole key is to consciously choose where that drive is pointed. We get to decide what we're going to let motivate us.
So once you understand how your brain's reward system actually works, you can stop being a slave to your impulses and start making it work for you. So the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to let your dopamine chase after things that don't really matter? Or are you going to harness it and use it to work on your actual long-term goals? Really, the choice is yours.